Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again, football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
All right, Tom, we have a really big one today.
Wayne Gretzky?
Close. We have a former teammate,
Okay.
a Stanley Cup winner, and the current head of the Alumni Association.
Mr. Glenn Healy. Heels, how are you doing there, brother?
Well, I'm going to get out of jail soon so I can stop doing your podcast. This is my last furlough, this last one here. So, hey, I'm doing good. Yeah. The season is coming up. Everyone seems to be in a good mood. It's the best time of year to be in New York if you're in New York. Yeah. Everyone is so friendly. You don't get hit in the back of the ankles with shopping carts. You don't have to fight for parking spots. And yes, it's all.
It wasn't so friendly at Todd's Point in Greenwich this morning. They let the dogs loose. Now, starting December 1st, the dogs can run wild on the beach. So the dog tried to attack me today. I had to beat him off with a stick. So the owner wasn't too happy.
Wow. I thought Gresh was leashed when he got on that. Is that who was attacking him?
He can't move too. He doesn't need a leash. He can't move too quickly.
You know what I love about this season? Do you remember the Islander Ranger game? And
yeah,
that rivalry is all about. But they had where if you dressed up as Santa, you got in for free. And the Islanders weren't very good back then, so really you just had to show up with pants on and you got in for free. But they decided to do this Santa thing where you dressed up as Santa, and the Ranger fans and Islander fans dressed up as Santa, and they went on the ice and have a holly jolly Christmas. That was beautiful. And next thing you know, there was a full-blown melee and fisticuff on the ice. Ranger fans as Santa were fighting Islander fans as Santa.
Seriously?
That's
classic.
I've never seen that in any rink since the season, and joy to the world. But it is a unique place, New York.
Oh, yeah, New York is fun. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Well, it's even worse now. You can't go to Times Square now. It's a mess down there. So,
well, we played in both places, and what do they say? Get out of LA before you're too soft.
Yeah,
and get out of New York before you become too hard.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
both places do different things, So. And we got to play in both cities. So
yes, we did. Two great cities. A lot of fun. All right, so let's go back and talk about your beginnings and your career and what you're doing now and everything. Where did you grow up? What home?
So I was very fortunate. My parents, my dad fought in World War II and then came to Canada. Yeah, I fought for the British. Two choices: stay in Scotland with no job and no money, or come to Canada and you got £2 to emigrate with no job, but you came to Canada.
Wow.
And so he came to Canada, got to the Canadian side of the pond, and they asked him what he did for a living. And he said, well, what do you need? And they said, painters. He goes, you wouldn't believe it. I'm a painter. He had painted a barn. So ended up we moved into a place in Pickering, Ontario, which is
that's right. Yes.
famous for myself.
Yeah.
But more importantly, an 8-reactor nuclear power plant.
Right.
And that says it all now. So now you know how we got here, and that was my start. So Pickering, playing in that organization growing up, and literally enjoying every bit of it. Pickering Panthers was the junior.
That's right. Yes.
And then off to Western Michigan, the Harvard of the West.
I thought Northern Michigan was the Harvard of the Midwest. Yeah.
Well, Northern's not even on a map. Okay. They don't even plow the roads when they go.
Oh, that's true. Oh,
yeah.
God. Yeah. So were you a goalie when you got started?
I played in a church league. And again, my dad and parents, Scottish, they had no idea what hockey was. And so decided to put me in a church league. And the first, the age groups were 9 years old to 4. So that's a big gap.
Yeah.
4-year-olds can't skate. 9-year-olds are way too big. They're, they're 6 feet almost, kids today anyways. Yeah. And so the first year buzzer system, I got on the ice and it got close to the puck and the buzzer would go off. Now it's time to change. Make my way back to the bench. Oh, I'm still on. Turn around, go back and have another shift. So I never left the ice, but more important, I never touched the puck my entire first year. And we had the goalie equipment at the house because my brother was a goalie, and my dad thought in his infinite wisdom, you know what? Why have him chase the puck when he can never get to it? Let the puck come to him. Sure. Put him in net. I've got the equipment. And that's how this incredible journey began, with an incredible coaching move by Scotty Bowman Healy, who had no idea about the game at all, but just thought it was a good thing for us to learn some life lessons.
Did you love it right away? Play goal?
Well, I did, because it just kind of came natural.
Right.
Like, hey, we played with goalies. You played with one in New York, with the Rangers. He was afraid of the puck. You can't be a goalie and be afraid of the puck, can you? He was.
Who was afraid of the puck?
I'm tell you who it is. Anyway,
come on.
Another college guy. Oh. And so, for me, I wasn't, and liked it and enjoyed it. And, the group that we played with that first year, there were 3 players that made the NHL, which is unheard of.
Oh, really?
Who was that?
Hockey Association. You had Billy Carroll.
Oh, yeah.
Played with the Islanders and won a number of cups.
Yeah. And
you had Dirk Reuter, who played a little bit with the Buffalo Sabres. And he was one of those kids that at 6 years old was shaving and was bigger than everybody. And he'd get the center and stick would come up to the rafters. And I watched goalies leave the net. You got this one, man. I'm not getting in the way of this. But, the whole idea of playing was about life lessons, sacrifice, discipline, unselfishness, being a good teammate, being a good person. And that was what was most important. It didn't matter if I won or I lost. I lost by 10, I lost by 1. It didn't matter. Parents were very positive in the sense that you're having a good time, you're enjoying your teammates, you're learning what's important in life, keep doing it. And cool. It led to some good things.
That's good parenting right there. So did you have a dream of playing in the NHL when you got started?
Are you drinking? A dream of playing in the NHL? Did you not watch some of those tapes of Western Michigan? No, I wasn't drafted in any league ever.
Really? You were not drafted? I didn't know that.
Never. Not junior. I can recall going to the World Junior Tournament. I got invited. I think they called the wrong number, but I did get invited. And I sat down for the very first training camp day in Kingston, Ontario at Queens. And everybody was talking about how they skated all summer. Okay. And I was like, where do you skate? I hadn't opened up my hockey box the last game of the year before. But I just wasn't talented enough. It wasn't big enough. I wasn't a guy on anyone's radar until I got to my senior year at Western and just happened to play in a CCHA final game. And Rogie Vachon was in to scout Gary Galley and Dave Ellett. And so we had a game, and I managed to make 70-plus saves.
Really?
Rogie looked around and said, sign him. And that was my chance. And the door opened.
What year was that?
That would have been like 84. So
okay.
Yeah, and that gave us the great opportunity to play with such an esteemed netminder like me, which clearly didn't take you long to ask for trade and get out of there. But yeah, that's how it started. But I just wasn't, it's Pickering, Ontario.
Yeah,
there's not a flood of scouts going to Don Beer Arena to watch the games.
Sure.
If they were going to the games, Lates, if they were, you know why they go to the games? because across the street was a strip bar. We would have went to say, let's just watch a period, and then we got other stuff. But no, it's not exactly your Toronto Marlies or your.
But Heels, you must have been a good goaltender. I mean, you get the scholarship. You get a full scholarship at Western Michigan.
Yeah. And, I had opportunities. There's no question.
Right.
But back then, the opportunity wasn't there at that level. I did have a chance to play junior A.
Right.
The Peterborough Petes came down. I was 16, and there was this really friendly, lovely, just such a nice coach. I'm trying to think of his name. Mike Keenan.
Oh.
He was coaching Peterborough, and he came down to ask me to play with the Petes. And my parents wanted me to go to school. They wanted to have Healy educated, which would have been the first ever in the history of our family. And so their big push was college. Get an education. If you learn, you earn. And I appreciated that.
Wow.
Mike came down to ask me to play with Peterborough. I turned him down. And he told me at that point that I was a loser. I would never.
No, he didn't say it, did he?
Oh, it was worse than that. There's swear words and adjectives that go along.
He really treated you like that? Wow.
It was no different than when I played for him in New York. It was one of those moments where I wondered at 16 if I'd made a mistake, and I stuck to it. But I'll tell you the rest of the story. And you remember LA, the Forum. The other team had to walk by your dressing room.
Yeah.
And they had to go down the hall a little bit, take a hard left, and there was their dressing room.
Yeah.
And so when Mike got the job in Philadelphia, I waited by that door like a dog on a bone for that team bus to come. So I could step out of the room and go, Michael, congratulations, you finally made it.
Oh, nice. Did you say that to him?
Oh, absolutely. I was a complete dick, but I didn't care at that moment. But, hey, it was the right move. 4 great years, college. You're not going to get much better than that. We were treated better than some NHL teams were treating their players.
Oh, really?
In fact,
wow.
Certainly from a medical care standpoint, I can tell you.
Right.
And so as a result, it took a lot of pressure off me playing the NHL. I didn't care if I made it. Right. If I didn't make it, I had 2 degrees. I had a major in marketing and a major in finance. So I would be able to find a place to land.
Yeah.
It might be by the nuclear reactor in Pickering, mind you, but there would be a place to land.
Or the strip joint.
Or the Caballero, yeah.
The Caballero.
Either way, it was, I think, a better route for me. I was a late bloomer, late developer. And
it's interesting hearing you talk that way, though, because I always viewed you as a great competitor. Like, you when you showed up for the game and practice and everything, I thought, man, this kid's really on. Like, he's on fire. He must want it really bad.
Yeah, I didn't get the nickname Head Case Healy for nothing. I mean, it was true. Hey, look, I look at every player. It's a triangle, and the bottom of the triangle, let's say it's the base, that's skill. So God's given some of us a lot of skill. Like you played with players where you went, wow, this kid's skilled. And then there's the other side of the triangle, which would be knowledge. Those smart players. The ones that never make a mistake, the ones that just always seem to be in the right place and figured the game out. Maybe they don't have as much skill, but boy, oh boy, they just know where to be and how to get there and what to do and lanes and all the stuff you don't have to coach. Pretty much what every Swedish player has when they come over. Yeah. And then there's the other side, which is the intangible side, which is basically 2 kids playing in a tournament for the Silver Stick, mini hockey in the hotel hallway, and you throw down a ball of tape, and who wants that ball of tape more?
Yeah,
that's the intangible side of the ledger. So the skill side didn't have so much of that, but the intangible side and the knowledge side, I had to work on that. And those I had more than I had the base and the skill. And that's what kept me around till I was 40 and was done at 34, but just kept running the other way from all these GMs and teams. It stuck around for a while.
Didn't know you were there still, yeah. Well, I tell you had the fire. I remember one game, you may not remember this. We had Hartford playing with the Kings, and somebody had shot a puck at you, and there's a rebound there. The other guy came in from the other team, from the Hartford Whalers, shot the puck in, and you looked up at me. He says, "Do you mind picking somebody up in front of the net, please?"
How many times you say that to him, Glenn?
I did say please.
Yeah. Oh, it was classic. I remember looking. It's one of those moments like everybody's frustrated, right? So it's like the tiniest little thing. And you said that.
Well, in LA before Gretz got there.
Yeah.
I mean, let's call a spade a shovel. I mean, we could beat anybody up. Right? We had them all. Tiger Williams and Larry Playfair, and Jay Wells and JP Kelly and Paul But you name it, we had it all.
Kenny Baumgartner.
Kenny Baumgartner. He would pull into scrums and go, "Daddy's home," and I'd be, "Oh boy, here we go." And that was back when we could fight 5-on-5, and I'd come down the ice, and I'd just be looking like, could we get a trainer on the ice? I want to grab the trainer. I one day ended up with Dave Maley, and he separated both my shoulders from my head. But yeah, we were good at beating teams up.
Yeah, we were. Yes, we were.
Come to playing, it was the one playoff game against LA. We, for 3 days prepared for this game.
Right.
Here we're going to watch, Curry to Gretzky to Coffey to Messier to Curry. Okay, we got this down now. I think it was 6-0 at the end of the first. And the glass broke behind the net, and the referee came over and told Pat Quinn, "Going to take a bit to fix the glass, Pat." And Pat said, "No problem, son. Can we keep the clock running?"
Did he seriously?
Here we go.
That's
and then game 2 came, and it was like, start the jet. This one's over too.
So what was your first year in LA?
Would have been, I played a little bit and right away my rookie year in '86, and then made my debut, I think, a year and a bit after that.
Okay.
The team was older, the goaltenders were older. It was all a revamp. We brought in a whole bunch of new guys, the Bob Kadelskis, the Lyle Fairs, the Paul Fentons, and it was time to rebuild. And so a lot of guys found their way out the door. Back then there was no waivers. They could send you to Wuhan if they wanted. Like, it didn't matter, right? It wasn't like they were worried about a salary cap. They just got rid of guys who ended up on some other planet. And so we rebuilt. And then my last year there was Gretzky's first year.
Oh, okay.
And, that transformation of the team, change of uniform, change of ownership, and change of fate. With one player, the team was one of the top teams in the NHL.
Yeah. And, it was unbelievable. That feeling was unbelievable, right? You felt like you were a better player. You think, holy crap, I'm going to be playing with Wayne Gretzky. Yeah.
We had 4 games that were sold out my first year. And the year Gretz got there, every game was sold out.
Totally,
every celebrity was in the crowd, from John Candy to Ronald Reagan. Meet the Kings night was in Beverly Hills. We had Paul Anka and Neil Diamond singing it, and paparazzi, and what a transformation of the team. And I think the year before we had Meet the Kings night at one of the bars in El Segundo with 14 people there, and 6 of them wearing their wedding dress, because why would I spend $100 and only wear it once? It was a change, man.
Huge. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the first game, home game. It was who sang the national anthem? Roy Orbison sang the national anthem.
Phenomenal, right?
I was standing beside Paul Fenton on the blue line, and Paul Fenton goes, "Who is that?" I go, "It's Roy Orbison, you idiot."
Yeah. Paul was never up on music.
No.
He played his first year in Springfield. He had a clock radio and a mattress on the floor. So he didn't have a lot of, there's no stereo. Any of that stuff.
Not his way.
Yeah, and you looked at that first game and just the energy.
Yeah.
I can recall, as they went down by numbers. So you would have been one of the first to get introduced, so it would have been, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we all start lining up, and then it gets to 99.
Right.
And they start laying out his records, most goals, most shots, most this, most assists, most points, most hat tricks, It went on for about 20. Stop, enough. Okay, we get it.
Oh, that's
and he came out, and I just happened to stand beside him, so I get in that shot all the time where I kind of tap him in the ass, and it's like, wow, see, kids, I did play. Look at that. Remember that? Like he's first game. Who scores the first goal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then that year we play Edmonton, who had won the cup the year before. Granted with him, but they won the cup the year before. And same thing there. Who scores the first goal in Game 7? Him. These stars just go right. It's like Hollywood writes their script, and it just happens.
Totally.
And you and I write scripts, and they end up in that circular filing for us. However, what a year.
That was good.
Good. Then you're a free agent at that point, Glenn. You signed with the Islanders. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I was, Gretz played all those years with Grant Fuhr. Okay. Then he gets me. What do you think he's thinking?
Stop.
And Laidlaw.
And Laidlaw, too, yeah.
No Paul Coffey.
That's funny.
I knew it right away. I knew that they would be looking for a goalie because we were a good team. And
who was with you? Who was the other goalie there?
Well, Kelly Rudy came in a trade, right? And then that's clearly an upgrade. Kelly was great partner. I loved him to death, and he was clearly a lot better than I was. And so I was kind of that player to be named late.
Oh, okay.
So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Keep Glenn around just in case, someone runs over Kelly with a bus and we have plan B, even though it's really plan C, but we'll call it plan B. And then that summer, then there's a change. And the Islanders were a team, they had come off the dynasty. Again, complete rebuild. We had 3 rookies on defense, Baskey, Kasparaitis, and Malakoff. And it was just a matter of, Al Arbor was the coach, greatest coach I ever had, and they were rebuilding. And I was part of that rebuild and part of a young group that, our leader was Pat Latley. We had Ray Ferraro. We had a couple, Benoit Hogue. We ended up with a Pierre Turgeon in a trade. It was a young, fun group that was vibrant and had a great leader. And so it led to, me maturing as a player versus what I probably would have had if I'd stayed in LA, which would have been a spot in New Haven for the Nighthawks.
You're not giving yourself enough credit. That's not the goaltender I remember. You're, like I said, you're a fiery competitor. You knew whenever you went in the net, you were going to give it him that you got. So was Richie Pilon still there on the island? Was he there yet? Or
just that whole group played in Springfield, and they'd won a championship there, from Rob DeMille to Dean Chanel to Rich Pilon. I go down the list, and they all kind of came up together and had won an AHL championship and were ready to make the jump to the NHL. But for the most part, we were just a young group, didn't have a clue what we were doing.
Right.
And we needed Al. We definitely needed him to pull us together. And he did. And it led to some great success. Our last year there with the Islanders, we beat Pittsburgh. There were 2-time Stanley Cup.
Yes.
The dynasty. They had pretty much everyone on that team is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible upset. But all of that orchestrated by Al Arbor.
Oh, he was that good. I just want to go back really quickly to Kenny Baumgartner. You were pretty close with him, right? Weren't you good friends?
I lived with him. I could write a book on just the two of us living together. It was.
He's actually a very intelligent guy, right?
Great guy. Oh, yeah. Very.
I remember when he first came up with the Kings. He would play that heavy metal music. Is that what was it heavy metal he had going?
Yeah. Hey, I played bagpipes, so you think I'm going to criticize anyone's music?
I know.
Well, I didn't know who Roy Orbison was. Okay, so
I remember when he first came up as a rookie, he would take control of the stereo in the room and he'd turn on the heavy metal music, but nobody else could stand the music, so we all left the room. We couldn't say anything to him because we thought he was going to beat the crap out of us.
Well, so I had the same thing in Toronto. I was allowed one bagpipe song on because there's always one guy runs the stereo.
Right.
It's the same way. So I picked the song Hellbound Train by Victoria Police Pipe Band. Everyone Google that. You'll love it. But so I put it on, and I can remember, getting into it. It's a great kind of lively pipe song, which is that's like an Amish hacker. Like they don't go together, but it was good. And I'd look up and the only one in the room with me would be Aki Berg. I'd be like, oh, no one likes this then, huh? Oh, probably should come up with a new one. But yeah, Kenny and I, I remember the very first game he played, and we were playing New Jersey. He got called up. Didn't know who he was, but his arms hung to the ground, so I knew this guy's tough. He can fight. And I saw his video from Prince Albert, his year-end video. There wasn't a goal in the video. It was him and Dave Manson climbing over penalty boxes. They were the ones that would go down and take your net in warm-up and bring it across center and say, come get it. They'd steal your pucks. They actually made a rule that teams had to warm up at different times because of them.
Oh, is that right?
He playing New Jersey, and they love that forecheck, the 05, right? No one would forecheck. So they dump the puck in. I stop it. Kenny sets up behind the net. We get into our set breakout, and he bangs the puck over the winger's head, off the glass, and down the ice. I don't think New Jersey even had a guy on the ice. They went to change. I thought, oh, boy, this is going to be fun. But he would stick up for teammates.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely guy and just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was.
And he knew what he was doing too. He knew how to bring on that nutcase kind of mentality, right? Like, he shaved his hair on the sides there too, little stripes on it, painted the stripes and everything.
Yeah, he fought Domi a number of times.
Yeah.
And you felt bigger, stronger.
Oh yeah, totally.
Faster, more confident. No one was messing with you. I could mouth off to anybody, and Kenny, help.
Yeah.
Please,
totally.
over here. But,
yeah, that's right. We had a tough team that too, right? Dean Kennedy, Larry Playfair was there for a while. All those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. No, don't mess with us. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But good memories for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Glenn, I think you sold yourself a little short on the Islander upset of Pittsburgh. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Well, we lost Pierre Turgeon in the series before in the clinching game. If you remember the Dale Hunter hit.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yeah.
He scored the clinching goal to make it 5-3. Though not much, 20 seconds left, and the game's over. Series is over. And 3 minutes after he scored the goal, Hunter came and hit him. So, I thought he had the puck. Oh, good one. Yeah, okay, sure. Anyways, he's out. He's done. We've lost our best player. And so, Al Arbour brought a chair in the middle of the room, and he sat it down, and he looked at Pat Flatley, and all he asked him was if he could tie one shift against Mario Lemieux. Of course, the answer is yes. And then it was Ray Ferraro, the seagull, because if he wasn't squawking, he was, what? Can you tie one shift against Mario Lemieux? Yes, I can. And we went around the room, Mullen, Benoit Ho, we did it all, back to Pat Flatley for the second period. And the message was, we don't have to win a shift. Just tie a shift, and we get to game 7, we get to overtime, we can win one shift. And we get to game 7, we get to overtime, and a Pittsburgh defenseman steps forward onto the ice instead of backwards, and that jumps a 2-on-1, Ferraro and Volek, and that was it. Series over, game over. And Al Arbour, who had this young upstart team minus its star, had beaten the great Scotty Bowman with a bunch of Hall of Famers, and it was real important to Al that happened. And I remember after the series, down by the bus in Pittsburgh, and the ownership came up, and they were meddlers. They were the 4 headless horsemen, is what we used to call them. And they came up to Al, very ecstatic about the fact we beat Pittsburgh, and they wanted David Volek traded all year. Oh. All year they wanted him gone, and I think Al kept him because they wanted him gone. And so the game ends, and they came up, and they're congratulating Al, and he kind of looks at them very gruffly. Al had a presence, and he said, "What do you effing think of David Volek now?"
He said that to the owners? That's classic. Oh, good.
Well,
he could do it too, right? Yeah, he could do it.
And hey, to finish the story, then, we don't think we're winning, so there's no beer on the bus or anything. Nothing, right? And Al Arbour's nickname was Radar because he didn't miss anything.
Right.
So we say, "Can we get some beer?" And we've won. We're going to Montreal now. Yeah. 3 cases. No problem, Al. 3 cases. That's all we get. So 3 of us get off the bus. Of course, we open up the back security window, and in go 6 cases, and on we walk with 3.
Oh.
And as I'm walking by him, he says to me, "I said 3 cases, not 10. I counted the 7 in the back window." The Radar didn't miss a thing.
Oh, that's funny.
That was a big upset, and again, we as a team were so close. In fact, when that season ended, there was a whole bunch of us that went to Ireland on vacation.
Oh,
spent time even after the season, and that doesn't happen often, right?
Yeah.
Usually, you're right away, you're packed up and you're gone. But no, we were a close group.
Who'd you play the next round? It was Montreal, right?
We played Montreal, and it was their season, right? I looked on the ice 200 feet away, and there's Patrick Roy. Okay, really? Anyone else? You want to get Bill Durnan into the net? Come on. Ken Dryden. Just let's dress them all. And he was spectacular. And you just, I think his goals against, it was under 2, and back then under 2 was unbelievable. And just he didn't make a mistake. And the minute I made one, I knew that was it. We're done for this game. But they won a bunch of games in overtime. They beat us in overtime a bunch of times, and just it was a. I think they had 2 parades that year. They had the parade when they won because they beat LA, and they had the parade when we beat Pittsburgh because they didn't have a rat's chance of beating Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, Pittsburgh was on its way, but we just were a team that couldn't score, and when you've got Patrick in the net, you can't score. Period. Even if you're a good team, but close, but not close enough.
Right.
Have you ever dreamed of being a pro hockey player? Skating on the same professional ice as your hockey heroes? Hockey XP gives you that chance. Join us and live your pro hockey dream for one night. A Hockey XP event gives you the full professional experience. A ticket to an NHL game. A chance to network with other hockey enthusiasts, meet new teammates, and make new connections. An event-themed jersey and a swag bag full of sponsored gifts. You'll dress in pro locker rooms and sit on pro benches. and you'll play a full game on professional ice with professional referees. Join us Tuesday, March 28th at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, or Thursday, April 6th at the UBS Arena on Long Island for a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Spots are selling out fast. Go to hockeyxp.com to register.
How many years did you stay with the Islanders?
I was 4 everywhere. So
Oh.
four with them, 4 with the Rangers when I went over, and 4 with the Leafs to finish things off for
That's right. I forgot
round
about the Leafs.
16. Yeah. So
Okay.
I had a 4-year window before people got sick of me.
No, somebody else wanted you, Glenn. That's the way I
Oh,
look at
that's
it.
right. Yes. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so next year Glenn moves across the river, or
How'd that happen? Did you get traded? Or?
Well, no, it was, again, we had our year-end party with the Islanders, great finish. And I was a free agent. And so my good buddy, Pat Flatley, decides to go to the 4 Headless Horsemen again at the year-end party, the owners, and write down my contract demands on a napkin. This is what Glenn would like to stay.
Seriously, he really did that?
He did that, yeah. And the owner crumpled the napkin up and threw it at me.
Oh.
So I knew, I guess we've broken up. This is over for us. So there was the year of the expansion draft. You had the Anaheim Mighty Ducks that came into the league,
right.
and so I ended up getting picked up by the Ducks in the expansion draft.
Oh.
And day 2 of the expansion draft, the teams that had drafted the year before, because we expanded by 4 teams real quick, Tampa could pick 1 player in the draft, and they picked me and traded me then to the Rangers.
Oh.
And all of that happened while I was in Ireland with no cell phone, because we didn't have it back then. No cell phone, no phone where I was staying. And so literally weeks later, when I got back from my escapade with all these players, and as you know, when you go on vacation with 7 guys, you can easily find 12 that want to go have fun, let alone the 7 you're with. And so I had no idea what had happened. And these teams were not able to get a hold of me. And it was just one of those situations where I'm sure they're all thinking I was a complete asshole for not picking up the phone and saying, welcome to the team. And I had no idea. But, you think about it and you lived it. The Rangers and the Islanders don't make trades.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Never.
They do not get along in the sandbox ever.
Right.
So that was a shock to go from the Islanders to the Rangers across the river to the most heated rivalry. But, in some ways, things happen for a reason. And that first day of training camp, I knew we had a really good team. I didn't know we'd win a cup, but I knew we had a good chance, and we did.
Was that the year they won the cup?
Yep.
What was it? Wow.
We went to London, England for training camp. They had the French's Mustard Cup, which I don't know what that meant, but it was a series against Toronto, who were really good, went to the Final Four, and we dusted them off. We brought just the team. We didn't bring extras. We dusted them off, and I knew right away, like, this is a good team. You just took down a Final Four team that, again, they didn't bring their extras either. Like, this was a trip where we were to grow the game internationally and not bring a training camp where, as you know, in camp, we have 70 players in camp.
Yeah.
40 probably should just go and book a vacation.
Yeah.
They don't belong on the ice with anybody. And so right from the start, you could see that we were a pretty darn good team. When we won the championship, an interesting story, they forgot the trophy in the hotel. So they panicked and went across to the flea market at Wembley and bought a trophy, a brass claret jug, and presented it to Mark Messier. And he kind of looked at it and went, what is this? And it was left in the locker room. And it was Neil Smith, who was, at the very end was kind of taking a look around and said, the team didn't even take the trophy. So he took it. And it's on display somewhere in Neil's house, office, wherever he got it. But we just left it there. We're like, whatever, you keep it. What a waste of 7 pounds. What a waste. Keep the money.
Is that a true story, really? They forgot it in the hotel. They were bombing. That's cool.
Forgot the trophy. Yep. So, but that was us going to England, and we played the 3 games in 4 days. And I'll give Mike Keenan credit. We were there for well over a week. He just gave, you're done, guys. Go have a good time. Visit the city. Enjoy.
This was training camp.
Training camp. So, here we are. We came back. We were so out of shape when we got back. Yeah. Like we had to start all over again. It took us a little bit to get rocking and rolling, but from wire to wire, we were a President's Trophy team.
Right. How was that then? Like Mark Messier on the team, Stanley Cup run, going to 7 games. A lot of fun, right?
Well, you're like the Beatles, you had all kinds of rock stars. You had Brian Leach on defense.
Yeah.
You had Craig McTavish, who's a fourth line center. He was the captain of the Oilers. He had won how many 4 cups? You had, a line with Steve Larmer on it and Greg Gilbert that never made a mistake, and Stefan Matteau and Brian Noonan and Adam Graves and Mike Richter and net. These guys' names are up in the rafters, and the greatest leader in all of sport.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, it was a team that was built a lot with older players that Mike knew when we got into that heat of battle, there wouldn't be a collapse, that we could get through all the stuff that, your confidence gets challenged. As a player, you get challenged. Your belief gets challenged. That will to win gets challenged all year long. And it's the guys that stick with it that aren't going to be deferred and deterred. They're the ones that make a difference. But a lot of the players on that team, from Kevin Lowe to Esa Tikkanen to McTavish to Messier to Adam Graves, they had all won championships. So they were all part of a steam group, the Jeff Bukaboom, that knew how to win. And when it came time to win, even though we did, it still took every ounce of what we had to collect ourselves to get through Game 7, to get to the point where we had that last face-off to win. But all year long, I can recall Game 7 against Jersey in the 3rd round. We outshot them in the first overtime in Game 7, like 16-3. I've never seen a better goaltending display than Martin Brodeur put on.
Right.
And you think to yourself, not our year. This isn't going to happen. Right? It's one shot and you're done.
Right.
But we found a way there. And there were a lot of moments during that year where, and with Mike, there's a challenge with Mike.
Did you room with Mike? You and Mike Keenan, you guys roomed together?
Yeah, we were roommates. After I assaulted him and he assaulted me, and we went to Rikers Island for battery charges. No chance. No, it was Mike was different. He would put a line in the sand, and if you let that line go, he'd make a new one and a new one and a new one. You had to draw the line and say, this is enough.
Right.
Where I'm standing down here. And there were players that did, and there were that didn't. And those are the ones that just couldn't deal with some of the antics. But no doubt we had mutinies. We had disruptions.
Right.
We had skates that we thought were going to give us heart attack. Like, we had it all in one particular year. But at the end, we all did it together and lifted a pretty significant trophy.
Yeah. Glenn, what was it like in the room after the Devils scored that goal with a second left in Game 7?
I can't remember who scored it. Was it Zella Pukin? Yeah, so I was puking, Zella Pukin. I think the message from Kevin Lowe was pretty simple. Like, settle down. Again, go back to leadership. Settle down. If we had started back in London, England, and said, we're one shot away from going to the Stanley Cup Finals, would you take that? The answer is yes.
He stood up and said that, Kevin did?
So this is where we were. We were one shot away. Yeah. So let's go make our shot, and we'll go on. It doesn't matter what's happening. You can't change that, even though I would argue it should have been whistled down. But, whatever. The referees couldn't find their whistles. But it's a dagger. When you've got it in the bank and you are, as a player, you're counting the clock down in your head, right? You just seem to count it down faster than the clock up top. Right. And then you think, like, how many times were they late with the whistle? Like, this should have been over, or they were early with a whistle. Like, they're the second in 7 or 1.7 seconds, whatever it may be, should have been done by now. We should be moving on. But we stuck with it, and leadership said, one shot. That's all it is. And Stefan Matteau, who he's hoping the Rangers don't win a Stanley Cup because he has a credit card for life in New York because of Matteau.
I've gotten to know him pretty good for the alumni events. He's a good guy too. He's got quite a sense of humor.
Fantastic. Yeah, very dry. But there's the kind of player, him and Brian Noonan, that you and Steve Larmer, that came from Chicago, that you needed to put up with some of the antics that we had in the room. He was 98.6, just never too high, never too low. Everything's okay, slow as she goes. But not only did he score a double overtime goal in Game 7, he had another one early on in that series too. Right. So he was a double overtime winner for us in many ways. And, we needed to get a big team because Jersey was a big team. They had big defensemen and Danico and Stevens. And at the trade deadline, we got bigger because we knew we had to be bigger. And we were more physical than Vancouver. You know, they had great players like Bury and Trevor Linden, but all you got to do is watch the first shift in the Stanley Cup Finals, Messier against Linden. There's minimum 4 suspensions in the first shift. Minimum. Okay, so this is what I have for the next 59 minutes.
Yeah.
No, my gosh.
Hey, go back to Mike Keenan. Do you think that he felt like those things that he was doing really helped the team? Or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. His philosophy was simple. Like, we knew what we were getting. We clearly knew. And maybe in some ways, you know, the antics were to galvanize us, to keep us together. So all we had was each other.
Yeah.
Hey, look, there's times that, you know, we'd have a shooting drill in practice. Okay, whistle blows. Let's start practice. So typical practice is the horseshoe drill, correct? Everyone knows it.
Yep.
Come around the horn, D, pass to the guy down the wing. He takes a wrist shot on the goalie. You know, get Glenn all nice and comfy, cozy. All right, we start with the horseshoe drill, down the wing, around the corner, shot. First shot goes wide. Whistle blows. Stick explodes off the net, and we skate for 40 minutes. We really got that upset over one shot missing the net, really. And the stick exploded. It was like it was sawed in 7/8. So the wind could have blown the blade off, right? And so, you know, you start to believe some of that stuff. But yeah, it was a challenge. I got pulled in a game in New York with the Islanders, and I mean, clearly went ballistic. Called him every name in the book.
Oh, did you? Oh.
I wish, Tommy, you had told me that the cameras are across from the bench, that they can pick up everything you're saying.
Oh, really? How did he handle that when you did that? What did he do?
It was like I didn't do anything. He pulled me into one of the rooms as you walk down on Long Island. There's some dressing rooms on the right side, and their team masseuse was in one of the rooms. He kicked that person out, you know, get the hell out. And I thought him and I were going to have the big rowdy, here you go. And he looked at me and criticized another player. Do you believe so-and-so, how lousy he is? What's that got to do with tonight? Anyways, but
that kind of stuff to me, is he like he's really planning that? And is he like the mad scientist, or is he?
It was there. I can tell you, I'm not making it up. But
my only interaction with him was we played an alumni game down in Philadelphia, and he coached it.
Yeah, he started bench and benched you.
Yeah, well, I went in after the second period. I was getting a lot of ice time, so there's other guys that hadn't played much, so I thought it was being nice. Mike Richter was in the room with them, and I said, "Hey, Mike, you know, listen, if you want to play the other guys, I had lots of ice time already." And he goes, something like he says, "I'll play whoever I often want to play."
Oh yeah,
yeah. And I'm like, I'd heard all the stories about it, so I felt comfortable just telling the F off too, so it was good.
Alumni game.
Yeah, it was an alumni game. Yeah,
we had a gentleman who played with the Olympic team, Todd Marchand.
Yeah,
right, wonderful kid. Came up after the Olympics. And, you know, he's a little bit on the small side. I thought we actually had like a meet the fan. Like a fan was in the room. And I found out, no, he's signed. He's on our team. So he played that night. And in the Gardens, you know, it's a pretty intimidating building. Mm-hmm. And his first shift, as we do most times, our first shift, it was very short, like very short. I'm going to say 12 seconds, but just go out, skip my first shift, and then get back to the bench and collect myself. He sat there for probably about an hour and 40 minutes, never played another shift.
Oh, Jesus.
And at that point, Mike leaned in his ear and told him that he hadn't seen anything from Mr. Olympian, and he's got one more shift to show him.
Wow.
So that kind is a chance. So anyways, Todd did get traded. He got traded to Edmonton. And so, but those stories are real, and they are real. But we lived them, and you know what? We got the T-shirt show for it.
Yeah.
Good
memories.
A few nice parties too.
Yeah. So he had 4 years in New York. How did retirement work? We just kind of a forced retirement. You were done. Where was that?
Oh, and I went.
That's where you went to Toronto. I forgot. Yes.
I was a free agent, and you know, at the time there was really only Andy Moog and myself as free agent goalies, and so we both had some significant offers from different teams. And the team that made the most significant offer to me were the Montreal Canadiens. They were the ones that were serious. So I couldn't agree in any way financially to terms with the Leafs. Ken Dryden was their GM, and he just wouldn't move past the number. And I couldn't make any of the numbers work. You know, free rent because I live in Pickering. No, that doesn't matter. You know, different tax status. No, it doesn't matter. Like it was a big chasm for the two offers. So I went into Montreal and I did my physical. And Dr. Mulder did the physical. I met with the coaches. I met with the general manager. I sat in the coach's office with all of them. And it was about, call your agent. Let's agree to this. Let's have a press conference and let's get your journey in Montreal started. And at the time I had called my agent. Larry Rausch was my agent.
Yes, Larry Rausch.
And I was very excited. Great dressing room. Physical went great. Coaches are awesome. GM's fantastic. And he, in the interim, had called the Leafs to say he's signing in Montreal. They said, whatever they're giving him there, we'll match. So as I'm on the phone with Larry, he says to me, get out. So how the hell do you get out of that locker room with everybody there asking for a press conference? So I came up with some crazy story about, going to check with my family and make sure this is okay. And I can come back later tonight. And that wasn't to be. Called Ray-Jean Huot as the GM to tell him that it was my dream to play in Toronto, like his dream would have been to play in Montreal.
Sure.
And so, understand my feelings, understand my situation.
What did he say?
There was 2 words. Second one's off.
Really? He was.
That was it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're done.
Wow.
Okay. So that being said, again, 2 hated rivals, and Andy Moak signed in Montreal, and he had a great finish to his career too. Yeah. So might not even been finished. I don't know if he went to Dallas after that or if it was before. Right. Well, yeah, it was probably back. He kept his thing going too. So yeah. But yeah, Toronto was a place where I wanted to be, and again, 4 great years with a really good team. And my goal, my vision was do what we did in New York, and 3 decades and generations of misery. Actually, 5 decades, 54 years, but 3 generations that hadn't seen a championship, and we did it. Mm-hmm. There are 4 generations now in Toronto. So if you could do it there, that's a pretty good place to do it.
No kidding. So you had 16 seasons in the National Hockey League. Somebody told you, an 8-year-old kid, that you were going to play 16 seasons in the National Hockey League. That would have been pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, they're clearly they live closer to the nuclear reactor in Pickering than I do. It just, but that's the way the journey goes. We've seen guys that can't miss, guys that can't hit it, and the guys that were, first rounders that just never seemed to pull it together and get it together. Sure. And then, like I played with some great players that just you never, Luc Robitaille. Yeah. Hall of Famers, numbers in the ceiling. I remember his first day of training camp and couldn't really skate. And I couldn't get to places on the ice. And I thought, wow, he's got to be a fighter. He's got to be a tough guy. And there was a gentleman we had at camp, Danny Brennan. And the first shift that Luke had, they dropped the gloves and he one punched him and knocked him out. I thought, this guy can't fight either. How's he going to play? Well, I guess we missed that one.
Not bad, yeah. Not bad player.
Yeah. So you just never know until you step on the ice. And even a guy like Gretz, even if he never scored a goal in the NHL, he'd still be the most points ever. Think about that. Yeah. Who would have picked that? Dave McNabb, or Peter McNabb, who passed away, tells a great story about Wayne Gretzky. God rest his soul. But he talked about them playing in Edmonton the first year that Gretz was there. And it was like the second or third game that the season had started, and Ray Bourque was on the team, but it was the big bad Bruins, right? And so everyone wanted to know, okay, who's this Gretzky guy? Who is he? Is he any good? Anyone seen him play? Anybody? And Ray Bourque had played against him in some of the friendlies that they had with the juniors. Right. And Ray didn't really speak very well with English. It was French. And he just looked at the group and went, good. Oh, okay. So they get on the ice for warm up, and they're all going to dial in this guy because he's the guy you got to watch, right? Sure. And they're looking for 99, and there's no names on the back of the sweaters. Sure. It's just numbers. Yeah. So as they skate around and warm up, they're like, him? That guy? Yeah. That's the guy we got to worry about? Because you can imagine Wayne was probably 160 pounds. Sure. Yep. 5'9", 5'10", 6 foot, whatever. But, skated hunched over, so you didn't really know how tall he was. But that's the guy we worry about. I think he had 5 points that night. Yeah. Well, that's the guy we got to worry about. There we go.
But isn't it funny? You look back, people didn't all believe in Wayne Gretzky when he first started, right? There's a lot of people say he's not fast enough. He can't shoot the puck well enough. Like not a lot of people were predicting he was going to be Wayne Gretzky.
None of them are employed right now.
Yeah, true. Very true. Yeah.
Good enough. You would have to score 200 points a year for 16 straight years to match his record. Think about that. Yeah. We're lucky to get a guy with 100, and we celebrate it, and we pull out the pipe band and the parade, and he would have 200. Mitch Marner's got a 21-game point streak going right now, and everyone in Toronto was a gush. Gretz's, I think, was 52 games.
59.
59, that's right.
And if you look at the point totals in the 59 games, it's something like 170 points.
It's a monster season.
Like, what? Yeah. That's a career for most people. So
for Tom it is.
Yeah. Minus 2. So you retired from playing the game. How did that end up then? That was enough for you?
No. I was still had a couple years left of my contract. I had signed at 40. I still had an extension of 2 years, which is, I don't know what the Leafs were thinking, but they weren't. But they had a goaltender called Michael Tellqvist in Sweden, and they wanted to bring him over, but he didn't want to come if I was there, because you're going to knock out the guy who's played for 16 years. It's going to be hard. So Pat Quinn thought, well, just buy Glenn out, get rid of him, and we'll bring him over.
Oh,
which fine. Like, I signed my extension in May. So by the time we got to June, which June 30th is, as everyone knows, for NHL players, is the buyout date. So if you do get a courier on the 30th of June, it's probably not a Christmas gift, just saying. So that came to my house. And so extension in May, didn't work out once, bought out in June. Oh, okay. Not so bad. But there were other opportunities to go to other places, but it was time to just invest in the family, to stay here and not move and not get up and traipse around the country. When I knew at the end of the day, I was probably going to play 10 to 15 games, and it's not a lot of fun. I know guys are trying to miss you, but Lades, there's guys like you that just seem to always hit you, and pumps hurt, and I just had enough. So that was it. And news hit the wire, and Hockey Night in Canada came calling the same day.
Oh, really? Great. That's excellent. And you were on Hockey Night Canada for how many seasons?
A number of years, probably 13 in total. Little break in there where I went to the Players Association to work on some of the player affairs stuff.
That's right.
But yeah, again, the best broadcast in hockey, the best people in the truck. Getting a chance to work. My first game was with the great Don Whitman, and then I get to work with Bob Cole and Harry Neal and just Dick Irvin and
Dick Irvin. That's a great name. Yeah,
incredible group of people. I mean, like literally a guy like Bob Cole. I can't tell you how many games I did with him where 7 minutes left. The whistle blows. Typically, that's when the talking head like me gets in and starts breaking stuff down. And I would just look at him and go, Bob, I can't beat what you got. Bring it home.
He's got that voice, right? That's just like Irvin too. The voice, you just remember it all the time in Hockey Night Canada.
Well, he always had those calls, that were just iconic. Every call was unique. I remember in the '98 Nagano Olympics, and they were playing Canada was playing the Czech Republic, and it was the year that the Czechs won Hasek, the shootout. Gretzky didn't take the shootout. And Bob Cole's call was, well, there's 5 minutes left, and you know what. And after that, it's you know what. And then you know what. Okay. What? We all knew. Overtime shootout. Okay. Or, the great call in the Olympics, Joe Sakic. That has to be it. They're going home when they played the Russians. We stayed. They're going home. Like, he had those iconic calls every time, and that was a brand that was a treasure in this country. And so I was fortunate enough to get a chance to. We were the first to be between the benches, to broadcast from down low, and just everything about the people that worked in the just the best of the best. So a great, enjoyable journey in my career.
Right. So what did you do at the Players Association? I forgot.
Well, I would have done anything that crossed the players' purview would be under my watch. So arbitration, free agency, substance abuse, suspensions. You're looking at being part of the CBA negotiation. So any of the stuff that where a player was involved, I would be involved with my team, which would be everything.
Right.
Well, they're the players. They're not the owners association. They're the players association.
Right.
So we would take, there would be the fall tour. There'd be a whole bunch of different things. I was part of the competition committee as a non-voting member. So all of the things that were under the players' watch would be.
Very cool. Was Goodnow still there?
Bob he had left in 2004. They were a little bit rudderless for a while. They had some issues. Ted Saskin Saga went on, and then they hired a federal prosecutor out of Boston, Paul Kelly, and I came on board with Paul. And Paul was a gentleman who prosecuted and successfully, I might say, Alan Eagleson. He was the reason that we got Alan Eagleson. And so I hold Paul in such high esteem for getting rid of Alan and what he did to 3-4 generations of players, because it was uncomfortable.
Oh, totally. So everybody knows Alan Nielsen used to run the Player Association until he went to jail, and he represented a lot of players too, individually as well.
Yeah, he went to jail. I think he had 40 plus counts of fraud. There was he was taking money from the players. Bobby Orr saga is well documented. But Russ Conway writing a book called Gross Misconduct is a worthwhile read. But Paul and the FBI, they managed to do a thorough investigation. And a gentleman who was in the Hall of Fame, like Alan, is taken out of the Hall of Fame, and that doesn't happen too often. So, anyways, Paul was the executive director, and I came on board with Paul.
And what happened with Paul then? Who came in after him? Does Donald Fear come in and took over?
Don Fear took over, and Don has been there ever since. And now Don will be replaced in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever players decide. Their new head comes in, but he's definitely stepping aside. His time is up.
Oh, okay. I remember I was still an agent when he came on board, and I thought playing that game, like, I don't want this job. I don't want the job. I'm just here temporarily. He wanted the job all along. Don't you think?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Was his nose growing when he said that? I mean,
he was a confident man too. I remember he walked into one meeting one time. He says, "I'm very good at this." Just like that. Yeah, I guess if you've done what you've done. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I say that too sometimes. That doesn't work out very well either.
So Player Association then back on TV again with Hockey Night Canada again?
Yep. Yeah, we're back at it. And, the hard part with television is just when it's Hockey Night in Canada, the travel is difficult. You are gone, especially in the playoffs. It's a game every night. They have the rights to all the playoff games, and they are the sole rights holder in Canada. And so you are 10 weeks of traveling everywhere you got to get to cover all the different teams. And it's not home games in Toronto. I mean, they haven't been in the second round in 20 years. But you are one night in Washington, the next night you could be in San Jose. The next night you could be back in Washington. Right. And so those flights across the country and being away from your family, at some point, it does take away from that quality of life. And you question whether, at 30, you would be way better to do this job than you were at 50. So that was a change.
So did you jump right to the Alumni Association from broadcasting?
Yeah. So again, just a number of years ago was a group of players, Wayne being one of them, that felt that we deserve better as alumni, that this is a big brand, and that there were players that were falling through the cracks with medicals, that had died without getting their medicals, that needed better pensions, that needed better library services and benefits, and that we should be able to pull ourselves together as players and make this happen. And so, of course, my first question to baby Jesus was, he better be in the manger come Christmas morning, because if I don't have Wayne as part of my team, it's going to be a hard sell for a lot of guys. And he was 100% on board. In fact, said, we'll get everyone on board. And that has been the case. Everybody, there's players that we played with, that you played with, have issues with coping mechanisms, with alcohol, with drugs, and we need to help them and make tomorrow better than today.
Sure.
And there are spouses that need help, and we need to help them too. We've got a social worker. We're the first sports organization of any of the 4 major sports to have someone work with spouses. Every player transitions, every player retires, and sometimes it's a great transition. For me, it was smooth. For some players, it's rocky. But we all go through a transition, and we just need to stick together as a hockey family. And that's how the journey began there, and that's where we're at now. But I can, honestly say that my phone, when it rings, I don't have to say I'm sorry to any spouse or player or kid of a player who says, I want my dad back. I don't know what's going on. We have an answer and we have help, and we've got a library services extreme.
Well, I know that to be a fact too. Obviously, we don't want to mention names, but you've done a great job. So did you go right from Mark Napier to you, or was there somebody else in between there first?
I think they hired someone interim. Name escapes me, but they had someone on the interim that it was I think more on the side of the business side to see if that would work, and I don't think it worked out. And so as a result, again, players trust players.
Yeah, totally.
And we speak the same language. We've been through the same things. We know what the journey's like, the pitfalls, the hardship, because it is tough. My 16 years, when the NHL train left the station for that first time after 16 years, my phone stops ringing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And then what you lack again most is structure. We were all about structure. We knew when our practice was, when our playing was, when our meetings were, and when they're gone, now you have no structure in your day.
Yeah.
And a lot of times guys get into that stream and they don't have a paddle, and that stream takes them the wrong direction. Right. So structure provided that paddle. So we have provided that interconnectivity, that structure, and all the things that make for, look at short career, your next career, it's a long journey.
Yeah.
Career, it's a long one. So make that one as good as the playing career.
Yeah, definitely. Any surprises for you this job? More than you thought it was? More problems than you thought?
The premise is pretty simple. If you always get up each day and your feet hit the ground and you think of two things. You think of honoring the past. That's your mission. And the second thing is, how do I make tomorrow better than today for players and their families? Right. And I know I can't solve all the problems in one phone call, but I know that no matter who calls me, I know that I can get tomorrow, Saturday, and make it better than Friday, or get to Sunday then when I get to Saturday and make it better. And that those two premises of all our staff, and we have a really, really good rock star staff. Yep. If we stick to that, we'll get through any of the issues that we have to get through.
Well, Hales, it's been great having you on the show. If I was to look back, I don't know if you ever do this, but look back at your life. I mean, you've had one hell of a life so far. It's not over for you yet. You still got a ways to go. But I mean, to play 16
into the weekend, you never know.
16 years in the National Hockey League, doing the things you've done after the game. I would probably say, and I mean this is a total compliment to you, you're probably done more after the game than you did during the game. A lot of people just kind of pack it in. They play in the National Hockey League and they say, that's just all I've done in my life. You have not done that. So kudos to you. You've done a great job.
Thank you, Lades. I know you were a great teammate. And hey, two college kids that we didn't know what we were doing, but we figured it out, didn't we?
That is the truth, though, too. You look back at it and think, I didn't know, how did I do all that stuff? Yeah.
Especially, look at, I'm Kalamazoo. At least, we've got roads.
Yeah.
We have trees. I mean, where you were Northern Michigan, you're north of the tree line. Like, it was 11 months a year.
Oh, it was funny because you get nice beaches and everything. So you'd be on the beach during the summer, it'd be 80 degrees, but there's still ice floating around Lake Superior. So it was, it was a lot of fun. Hey, Hales, very much. I really appreciate you being on the show. You fantastic career, life. Great to see you. Very proud of you.
Great. Thanks, Lades. Thanks for having me. Cheers, everybody.
Man, Glenn Healy is a riot. He obviously won a cup, but he's a bagpiper. Head of the Alumni Association. Great stories.
Oh, one of those guys, you ask one question and then he goes on for an hour or two. He is funny. Like the thing, he could go on for an hour, but it's all interesting stuff.
He should be doing like a stand-up comedy set. He's really funny and he's quick, and what a great interview. That was I'm glad we got to talk to him. That was awesome.
He's doing some good stuff with the alumni too. So
yeah, he really is.
Another good man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.